widespread investigation of reports from funeral homes, morgues, and hospitals has concluded that the unburied dead are coming back to life and seeking human victims.
Zombies, man. You creep me out.
Welcome back to Thursday of the Dead, episode 134. My name's Chase. In the early 90s, I think maybe 1991, it was right around the time I was getting out of comic books. Fantaco released the Night of the Living Dead Prelude, which, of course, shows you some of the events that happened before the movie. When I heard about this series being adapted, I was excited because Steve Bissette was the illustrator, and there are some pictures of his artwork that leaked out. And so when this series started, at first I was disappointed because Steve Bissette's art wasn't in it. And I didn't know what to make of Carlos Castro's art. Over the years, I've come to really appreciate it. In fact, at one point I owned one of the pages of the first issue, the original comic art, which I'll point out here in a sec. I ended up having to sell that page when I needed money, unfortunately. But it was cool to see, how the artwork looked up close. I could see it looked like some, this is the page right here. It looked like there was some whiteout or correction ink on one of the panels. It's, of course, like most comic pages, it was a little bit larger than what was actually printed. But I've come to like this art quite a bit. It's interesting to me because some of the panels are photorealistic and some of them are very exaggerated. I think it works for the kind of nightmarish vibe. And I like the page layout. Most of it is done, without thought panels or dialogue, kind of like in the movie. But this episode is basically showcasing this series and my collection of these books. So now we're into issue 1. And then, as you'll see towards the end of this episode, I added in a newer acquisition, which is a new hardcover, signed hardcover for issue 1. Eventually, of course, I'd like to have all of these issues in signed hardcover editions, if possible. I think I lucked out in getting my first signed hardcover on eBay. I lucked out because it was inexpensive. I don't think they understood what it was. Because the other ones that I've found have been expensive. When you can find them, they're expensive. I guess for good reason. I think they only printed like a couple hundred of each of these things, of the hardcovers at least. And I found that these soft covers have actually gone up in price too, which is good because I have some extras that I'm planning to sell. I like how some of these issues have expanded. The Beekman's Diner section is pretty well done in here. What this series does is kind of, I think, what the Night of the Living Dead 30th anniversary tried to do but failed miserably. They expanded on the story and gave more texture to the original story without changing the story, really. They just added some stuff. I mean, there's some things they've changed in this comic run. They especially change it in the sequel, The Night of the Living Dead London, which I think is pretty cool, too. Yeah, I have to wonder how much of these original art panels are circulating. The fact that I'd gotten one of them from the first issue, I mean, it was a long time ago. I think I sold it close to 20 years ago. Here's issue 3, signed hardcover. Lately been getting more into signed items. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's nostalgia or something. It's just funny because I collected autographs for a long time and then got really turned off by it. And now, I mean, it's not so much autographs, but I like getting or picking up signed books or signed comic books. As I'd mentioned, like the early 90s was basically when I stopped collecting comics seriously. I think the X-Men variant covers is what did it for me. I'm not sure if that was before this or after this, but I think it was around the same time. There's a scene, I don't know if it's in this issue, I think it is in this issue, where the zombie at the top of the stairs attacks Ben when he's trying to clean it up, which is pretty cool. I wish that was in the movie. I don't know how they would have pulled it off, though. Some of the shots, like on these pages, the shots from TV, they look almost photorealistic, like as if they just Xeroxed it and put it in the panel. I'm not sure what the thinking was on that. Because obviously the artist Carlos Castro can do photorealism if he wants to, but I like that he doesn't all the time. There's issue 4, the signed hardcover. I'm not sure what happened with the deal of Steve Bissette not doing the artwork for the issue, but like there's artwork circulating of the death of Helen Cooper that is incredible. I mean, it's apples and oranges comparing Bissette's art with Carlos Castro's art. You know, I would have liked to have seen what the entire series would have been with Steve Bissette's art. I'm curious if it would have been any more popular. I don't think this was very popular in the beginning. Here's Johnny. They also put out an aftermath, which was pretty interesting, which follows the events of the end of Night of the Living Dead. Shows you a little bit of what happened to specific zombies afterwards, and specific characters, which you'll see here in a moment. And then it ties nicely into Night of the Living Dead London, which I have no idea how that came about. It's very interesting. They brought Clive Barker on board. So here's the aftermath. I've got Karen Cooper. I know they show Barbara and Johnny zombies. They're there. I'm surprised no one has tried to adapt this as an unofficial remake. Or, you know, anyone can put out Night of the Living Dead now, unfortunately. And they do. Here we are at issue 1 of Night of the Living Dead London. This one is actually signed by Steve Niles and Clive Barker. Also, Carlos Castro still does the artwork, which I'm glad. You know, there's consistency throughout this series. There gets to be some weird sexual political stuff that happens in here, which of course is Clive Barker's influence, I'm guessing, becomes pretty interesting in the story.